compared to their rival network, Cartoon Network has proven to be much more willing to take risks with their programming. While the shows Nick presents are usually lighthearted and friendly, there was no guarantee which direction Cartoon Network would go in. One show could be about a dog saving his farmers from horror movie tropes, another could be a slice-of-life comedy about a cow and a chicken, and another could be about three kids trying to scam others in their neighborhood. The 90s brought forth many different kinds of shows, and while some may be forgotten, others built long-lasting cult followings, and others became cemented as Cartoon Network royalty. But among these shows, there have to be protagonists, and unlike our Nickelodeon main characters, these heroes happen to fall everywhere on the morality spectrum. So today, we're breaking down who's the most noble and who's the worst. What's going on, guys? I'm Brad with Wicked Bench, and this is Cartoon Network Heroes from the 90s. Good to evil. Well, actually, bad to good. All right, let's get started.
911 emergency. There's a handsome guy in my house.
First up, just some clarification. We'll be using the term heroes a bit facetiously at times. As we mentioned, some of these protagonists are far from heroes, so perhaps the better term to use is just protagonist. We're starting the list with our least noble. In fact, one could argue we're actually in the bad category. Cartoon protagonist in the bad and evil category? Crazy! For all intents and purposes, we'll call these characters the bad and the evil. So let's start with our villain's protagonist and work our way up. First up, our pick for the worst may be a bit surprising considering his origins, but we think that Space Ghost has definitely fallen from grace. Now, while on his own TV show, Space Ghost, he was a standard run-of-the-mill hero. We're just counting his deeds on Space Ghost Coast to Coast. However, we don't blame you for not realizing that Space Ghost was an actual show. Heck, we didn't even realize it until we did the research. Here, he's anything but heroic. Sure, he claims to be a hero, but his actions tell a different story. He often finds himself behind bars for committing horrible crimes, be it enslaving two of his enemies to help him with his talk show, to flat out destroying France after watching a montage of all his terrible deeds. The insane reason for this is that montage is a French word, and thus, he decided to blame the French. He also is seemingly okay with racism, saying that some races are indeed bad. He has been on the receiving end of some abuse from Zorak's own brand of jokes. For all of his very unheroic actions, the rest of the superheroes seem to dislike him, something that he wishes to change. However, with just how much of a proud and pompous jerk he is, along with all the times he's been sued or ended up in jail for his own actions, we think he deserves the gold medal for being the worst hero of the 90s cartoon lineup, if you even want to call him a hero. Of course, this ridiculous morality and his actions are still part of the show's appeal. The show was a hit due to just how crude and ironic it was. Space Ghost may not be a hero, but he did do one good thing, aiding Cartoon Network and making a name for itself. Still a jerk though. Our second up for the protagonist villains is one of the titular characters in Mike, Lou, and Og, Lou. If you know anything about Angelica, then you probably know about Lou and her personality. Like with Angelica, you can argue that she isn't evil, but just a kid who doesn't know any better. But also like with Angelica, with how often she's mean, it's easy to think she was. She's a self-appointed chief of the island, being the daughter of the island's governor, and views the rest of the kids as beneath her, being mere peasants. As the princess, she believes that due to her status, she should always get her way and won't stop at anything until others bow down to her. She even views the members of the other tribe, the Cuzzlewits, as inferior to her tribe. With their friends Mike and Og, she doesn't hesitate to try and abuse them for her own personal gain. She's even dismissive of Mike's ideas and own traditions from the city, at least until she gets a liking to them herself after trying them out. Sure, she does have a pet turtle called Lancelot, but given just how much abuse she puts the poor thing through, we really see it as just more fuel and ammo that she isn't that nice. From an often forgotten show, it was surprising just how unpleasant she can be with how little moments of humanity she had. This wraps up our bad guys, and with that, we move on to the more questionable heroes. This is the gray area. Our first morally gray character, we have I.R. Baboon. In comparison to I Am Weasel, this baboon is definitely on the more dubious side. Seeing all the fame and glory that Weasel gets for his heroic deeds, Baboon is determined to ride those coattails and be a hero to get the same fame and admiration. He views Weasel as more of a rival than an actual friend. That said, due to how he is at least trying to do good deeds, albeit for the wrong reasons, he manages to scrape by being labeled an actual villain. Of course, since he's so dim-witted, he often ends up creating more chaos and disaster, leading Weasel to help. This isn't to say that he's all bad news. He sometimes does make a good point that even Weasel will admit to. He even was a decent parent to a baby he finds in the cornfield, and is technically marrying a thistle and stopping the species of plants from being extinct from a union effort. For as much of a pain in the behind he can still be good, even if it's more the exception than actual rule. Our next morally questionable hero is Chicken of Cow and Chicken. Chicken is a teenage chicken, often tasked with having to keep an eye out for his younger, yet taller, sibling Cow. The years of having to watch over her has led to him viewing Cow as a hindrance and has constantly been rude and mean towards her, as well as the others. He's even mean towards his parents, getting angry when asked to take the trash out. He believes that he's better than others and has a very big ego. Granted, he's definitely much more sane and logical than the rest, with even his parents being more brainless than him. But he certainly doesn't act that way. He's even willing to scam the entire town out of their money with a cheaply made shield, saying it will protect them from a comet. Now granted, despite all his claims of not caring for Cow, he is still very much protective of her, always stepping in to help whenever she's in danger. He even has his own superhero persona, Wanderwaddle, to help save his own sister's heroic form, Super Cow. He's more than happy to try and teach Cow whenever she has questions, even if he isn't as intelligent as he thinks. While he can be a good big brother for Cow, when he's nasty, he can be downright mean. The last for our great heroes, we have the first of our Eds, the leader, Eddie. Now with Eddie, he's often dancing around the lines of being a good guy and being the villain. The man with the plan, Eddie is the one telling his friends, Double D and Ed, on just what to create to scam the other kids. First things first, we should really go over these scams. While yeah, some of these are textbook definitions of scams, like getting Johnny to be as annoying as possible and getting the kids to pay him to get his friends to stop Johnny, and hypnotizing the kids to do whatever he wants. However, there have been plenty of other scams that are legitimate, like a bee removal service, an energy drink stand. Give an example of what the future could be like, and making wax models of the kids. Sure, the quality may not be as great as professionally made attractions in studios, but for only a quarter, it's a fair trade. That said, what puts him this low is his character. He always claims to be the best in the cul-de-sac, and his arrogance and pride has led to many of the kids being annoyed and angered by him. Some of his misdeeds include stealing Santa's sack of presents in the Christmas special, not caring if the scams really do scam people out of their money, and inviting the other Eds to do morally questionable things. These acts usually include stuff at the expense of other kids, like mocking Kevin for being grounded with Ed and tricking Double D into thinking he was dying, exploiting Kevin's fear of needles, and creating a mass panic over booster shots, and even convincing Ed to spend Sarah's own money on Jawbreakers instead of fudge. Alright, so why do we think he's a hero? Because despite these misdeeds, he still does have a good and caring side to him. We have a hard time calling anyone who's willing to yell at the cankers to tell them to leave a beaten Double D alone and getting them to leave a villain. In the same episode, Eddie still expressed concern over Double D beating Ed, even if Double D managed to hurt him on pure accidental coincidences. He also expressed anger at Ed for stealing Jimmy's toy bunny, Mr. Yum Yum, and demanded him to give it back to him. He even was willing to help Double D watch over a sleepwalking Ed. And of course, we can't forget to mention how Eddie finally confessed to his mistakes to his friends in the movie. Overall, Eddie's still just a good kid. He could be way better, but he still has a ways to go before being as bad as the other kids we see here, allowing us to say that Eddie is decent. Not a true hero like others, but he could definitely be way worse. Now, it's time to do the monkey with one Johnny Bravo. As described by the show staff, he is a womanizer who's always on the prowl looking for dates. However, as also described by the staff on the show, he has a 90% success rate with his dates. It's just that we get to see the 10% where he fails and messes up. The show's premise is based on Johnny being attracted to a woman and trying his hardest to get her, with it often leading to hilarious failures. These failings usually extend from Johnny himself, who ends up getting rejected due to him being an arrogant, sexist jerk. He's always boasting about his looks and beauty, flexing his arms whenever he gets the chance. He has some good at him though. He's like a parent to Susie in all but biological or adoptive forms, keeping watch over her and taking her out, and even visiting her in a hospital. He's also loyal and dedicated to his mother, so much so that he's even willing to go all the way to the North Pole to hand-deliver her letter to Santa. He also has more going on underneath the hood than one may think. In one episode, we see that underneath all that muscle is someone who's just scared of commitment and intimacy, and is lonely, often panicking due to his situation. With that, we're finally on to actual heroes. These characters are the good. Our first character in this category is Mike, real name Michael Ann Mazinski. Just don't call her by that. As a foreign exchange student from Manhattan, she's the odd one out of the group. Still pretty much a city girl. Trying to adjust to living on an island away from civilization, she tries to introduce the island to her way of life, including TVs, baseball, and even cars and helicopters. She's miles above Lou, so much that even Lou's own turtle seems to favor her. She's more relaxed than the other residents of the island. She's also on good terms with the rest of the inhabitants, and even growing to treat the animals of the island like Lancelot and Wombat more like people than actual animals. However, she does have limits, namely taking baseball very seriously and hating it when she sees it being messed up badly. As previously stated, calling her by her real name is another surefire way to get her riled up and angry. However, with how little there is to anger her, we can safely say she's a good kid. From one kid to another, we have our second Ed, Ed with one D. If you're a veteran of this channel, you may remember we previously gave him the gold as the nicest character in Ed, Edd n Eddy. However, thinking it over, while he is still certainly a good kid and far above Eddie, he isn't as innocent as we made him out to be. Like we said, he's still good. He's still dedicated and loyal to his friends, ranging from being the reason the Eds were able to escape the kids in the Big Picture show, willingly sacrificing himself when he thought the kids were gonna beat up Eddie, and helping Double D with building a device to let Eddie be taller. He's even happy taking care of Sarah, even if she's always scared and threatens him by saying she will rat him out to his mother. When Sarah was lost in the grass and eaten by Victor, he went out of his way to try and save her. Even when Sarah was sick and still being mean, Ed wanted to make her feel better and even apologize for getting angry with her. He's even friendly with the other kids, from helping Rolf take care of his animals, guiding Plank's parents on a tour of the cul-de-sac, and even babysitting Jimmy whenever Sarah commands him to. That said, this all circles back to those scams that he and Double D keep getting into. Unlike Eddie, who has no problem tricking the kids, Ed is at least doing this with the intent of just helping his friends. Most of the time, he doesn't have any ill will. However, he can easily be swayed to do harm or betray the trust of others. Eddie was able to convince Ed to spend Sarah's money on Jawbreakers instead of the fudge he wanted. He didn't even seem sad that he did it, and was just more scared of Sarah beating him to a pulp. He was also willing to help Eddie mock and scare Kevin, having fun at the expense of his fear of needles. He even was willing to help Eddie trick Double D into thinking he was dying, even if he briefly fell for his own joke. While we can't deny that Ed is a good kid and way better than Eddie, the fact that he can easily and willingly take part in these moments makes us reconsider giving him the gold. Still love you as a character though, Eddie. While we're here, let's address the final Ed, Ed or Double D. Sure, he does have pride in his intelligence and inventions, but the worst we see of him is denying scientific improbabilities that happen before his eyes, like with Ed's imaginary friend Jib and the cursed telephone. This is more understandable than other flaws we see on this list, with him being a person of science coming face to face with scientific improbabilities. Aside from this, the worst we see is him just being snarky with others after being ignored, which could be way worse. He never really claimed or acted like he was better than others, and even was willing to help the cul-de-sac kids learn and become smarter. He was able to congratulate Ed for beating him in a spelling bee contest, even after being mocked the entire day for losing to Ed. Out of all the Eds, he's the one who tries his hardest with making these scams as legitimate as possible. He was more than willing to create more than one thingamajig, and only did it due to Eddie keeping him in the dark with his plan of scamming the kids. Despite hating the instrument, Double D has played the steel string guitar to help strengthen the authenticity of the scams. Eddie claims that Double D is guilty in these scams, but the reason the scam failed was also due to Eddie not listening to Double D. It's a double-sided coin here, as yes, Double D is willing to go along with Eddie's scams. He's clearly trying to not only make these scams legitimate, but also safe. He has tried to warn Eddie countless times of how his scams can backfire if not done properly. With the other kids, he doesn't show any ill will to them. He stood up to Kevin after Eddie tried scaring him with his fear of needles, and helped Kevin get over his fear by letting him see a real needle shot up close. He's attempted to give the kids gifts when he believed he was going to die. He's also the only Ed to feel guilt after the kids get hurt by him during the scams, by making Ed a monster or when writing his goodbye letter. Towards the Cankers, Double D was willing to give May a Valentine's Day card meant for Naz after seeing how sad she was after Ed rejected her own card. He even felt bad after accidentally hurting Lee's foot by dropping a heavy book on it. While he certainly isn't as perfect as he describes, he does have the moral high ground over his two friends. Mama had chicken on this list, and now she has a cow. The more lighthearted of the two siblings, Cow is the kinder individual who looks up to her older brother despite how mean he can be to her. She has a bright and positive view on the world and others, even if they are always challenged. While she is not as smart or brilliant as her brother, she's still more than willing to help out the rest of the family. She has her own superhero persona, Super Cow, to help save the day. She has a perfect record, not losing a single fight as Super Cow, with the closest being her not being good in an insult war and managing to come back by fighting with her bear hugs. That said, she isn't perfect. Thanks to just how strong she is, she often causes harm towards others that she cares about without meaning to. She has good intentions, so we're not docking too many points for that, but it is something to watch out for. What we are docking points for is that she's more than okay with blackmailing Chicken. Given how mean Chicken can be, we can see why she's okay with doing this. But we're just being fair and docking points regardless of who it's done to. Even then, she's still a very nice and friendly face to be around. Granted, if you are capable of surviving being accidentally sat on by a giant cow. With her being one of the nicest characters on the show, she's a good person and a worthy character to be a part of Cartoon Network's classic lineup. Next, we have Og. As the smartest and most soft-spoken character of the show, he's capable of building whatever Mike asks him to build. He's the one that other Islanders call upon whenever they need help with anything. Out of just coconuts and bamboo, he's able to create many scientifically impossible creations, ranging from bicycles, searchlights, and even other foods like a hot dog machine and juju bombs, or as we call them, jawbreakers. Pretty sure the Eds would like that. He's more than happy to help Mike feel a little more at home by building her these inventions and contraptions. That's not to say that these inventions can't be used for evil. In a boy's game, he was addicted to the very same game he created, thus neglecting the defenses of the island and even playing through a hurricane. Ironically, his darkest moment as well as nicest moments come from where after spending the entire day helping out all the residents with their problems and missing his meeting, he decides to build rampaging robots to do harm upon those that pushed him that far in the first place. Of course, these are just exceptions rather than the norm. Normally, he's a pretty reliable friend and pretty good inventor. Just be sure to let him have a break and you'll be aces with him. From one super genius to another, enter into the lab of Dexter. He's definitely more arrogant than anyone on this list. He believed that he is the smartest person on the planet and that he can't be wrong or corrected. He often ends up creating way more problems for himself just by not clearly thinking things through. He ends up accidentally turning himself into a chicken after not understanding anything about the chicken pox. When he had to cook and clean for himself after his mom got sick, he had no idea about flour or dust. It's safe to say that despite how often he really is right and good, his ego can cause him to trip up a fair number of times. This is most obvious with his sister Dee Dee, constantly getting annoyed and angered by her when he's doing his work. That said, with how often Dee Dee constantly messes up Dexter's lab and doesn't seem to realize her mistakes, it can be easy to see why he isn't pleased with her. That said, there's still plenty of heroic feats that Dexter does. Whenever the Earth is being threatened, he's more than willing to hop into whatever giant robot is needed to stop these dangers. These range from alien invasions, monsters destroying cities, or even meteors about to crash into the planet. When he thought he was gonna die by exploding, he decides to spend his last day crossing off his bucket list, from doing all his chores, solving world hunger, and letting Dee Dee destroy his lab, knowing just how happy it made it. His most glaring good deeds comes from the movie, where it's revealed that after some hard work, in the future, he would have been a great asset to the world, sharing his genius with others and creating a golden age in science. Overall, while he certainly isn't the nicest genius, his good deeds definitely can't be undersold. With the final three, we're starting this off strong with a very good boy, Courage the Cowardly Dog. After losing his parents to a mad vet bent on making powerful space dogs, Courage is adopted by Muriel Baggs, a kind elderly woman, and her husband Eustace Baggs, a cruel elderly farmer. The farmhouse he's adopted into is constantly plagued by many various threats that he needs to keep at bay. He's the one doing most of it, if not all the work keeping the farmer safe, and despite how scared he is, always rises to the occasion. Be it a mummy that wants his slab back, or an ancient evil plotting to take over China, this little dog is more than capable of rising to these big threats. His deeds don't stop with helping his owners. When the chance arises, he's able to help out the very same monsters he was being hounded by. Some examples of these include helping a shadow monster find his calling, helping a beaver who didn't want to be a dam builder become a jazz musician, and even helping a rabbit get out of her abusive relationship. He may be dedicated to his owners, but he certainly isn't above helping others, even if they've been trying to get him harmed or killed. We're starting to see characters that are pretty close to being flawless now. For the silver slot, we have to give it to I Am Weasel. You know he must be a very good person, or in this case, Weasel. When the first time you see him, he's willing to give a kid his kidney. He's a hero in the eyes of many. He's a weasel of many talents and is able to perform many heroic feats. Despite all the fame and glory he gets, he never really lets it go to his head and acts like a selfish snob. Instead, he's more than willing to lend a hand or even lay down his life for others. Even if Baboon has nothing but disdain for him, Weasel is more than willing to hop in and help him out, even if Baboon doesn't want the help, viewing him as a friend when Baboon just sees Weasel as an enemy to conquer and beat. He even aids the Baboon in reuniting him with his family, just in time for Christmas. Sure, he does get a bit of an ego later on, but with just how courageous and smart he is over the others, it's a bit easy to see why. Having a big heart with a great desire to do good, even if he does enjoy the rewards of his heroics, he's still a true blue hero, and definitely deserves to be ranked this high up. For our gold medal, we must admit we cheated by putting all three Powerpuff Girls in first place. The reason being is that, like in our good to evil list of the same series, with the possible exception being Weasel, while Weasel was a regular hero, these girls are superheroes created by Professor Utonium. Their goal is to keep the city of Townsville safe from the many threats of the world. These could be as minor as Fuzzy Lumpkins, the hillbilly protecting his land, to him, who can best be described as the devil. You can count on them to keep the city under control and safe from so many threats. True, they can be rather violent at times, but with just how many dangerous and violent hazards there are to their world, they at least keep it pointed towards those that deserve it. They not only have the city's back, but each other as well, standing up for each other and not backing down if one or both of their sisters are seriously threatened. They're filled with sugar, spice, and everything nice. The markings of a true group of heroines, and the winner of our gold medal, or should I say medals, for Cartoon Network's 90s Most Good Heroes. And that's a wrap, y'all. Cartoon Network definitely had some odd heroes in the 90s, but that's part of the era's charm. Alright, you guys are up. Who do you think is the most noble? Who's the worst? Let us know. Make sure to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist. We've tackled a lot of these shows already, like Ed, Edd n Eddy and the Powerpuff Girls, and we also went through Nickelodeon's Heroes lineup. So check it out, but most importantly, stay wicked.